Hey up guys, I'm Mason. I'm a completely blind wrestling fan, and this is my podcast, Wrestling in the Dark. It's the only place where you can hear about professional wrestling from a blind person's point of view. Today will be my review of the October 2nd edition of NXT, the first head-to-head with AEW, the official beginning of the Wednesday Night Wars. But for someone like me, the only way to experience what's going on in the ring is through the eyes and the mouths of the commentary, which is why I started the Wednesday Night Commentary Wars League table, where we'll be ranking all of the commentators involved in the war between AEW and NXT. But who will be the commentator of the night, and how many points will they score? The only way to find out is to listen to this review and subscribe so that you get the notification when the commentary rankings video eventually comes out. They kicked off the night with an absolutely stellar NXT Championship match. It's Matt Riddle versus the reigning champion, Adam Cole, and what a match this was. So let's jump straight into it. They're making the entrances, the commentary put over how good Matt Riddle is, how good Adam Cole is. They make sure that we know that he's got a casted up wrist because it's fractured from the attack that Matt Riddle gave to Adam Cole last week. I was like, okay, fractured, really? Would he really be cleared if it was fractured? But nonetheless, it made it look that little bit more dangerous. I was sort of convinced Riddle was going to win anyway, so it was like, ooh. Match kicks off. Beth starts putting over how good of a grappler Matt Riddle is, puts over his ground game, his wrestling, and then he gets a double takedown almost immediately and goes for the Fujiwara armbar. There's a little bit of back and forth, then Riddle gets a gut wrench suplex trio. I always like that. I love a good gut wrench. I like the three amigos, and it's just always good to have three gut wrench suplexes in a row. Cole gets sent to the outside by what commentary only describes as a big kick. When they're out there, Cole hits a jumping roundhouse and then sends Riddle into the steps, and Beth picks up a point for telling us that because neither of the other two mentioned it. Then when they get back in the ring, Riddle attempts a fireman carry, but Cole counters, sends Riddle into the ropes, and again gives him a forearm, which I gave Mauro a point for the detail in that call. Then Cole gets an Ushigoroshi, which is become a bit of a signature staple of his moveset, and I like it. Mauro puts over Cole's striking ability big time. Always enjoy it when he does this with the Undisputed Era. Does the same sort of thing with Kyle O'Reilly, where he talks about how much of an accomplished striker he really is, and I always enjoy it because I love a good striking offense. Cole is trying to wear Riddle down, gets him in a submission, and then Nigel has a really nice call about Cole trying to position himself so that he's got as much weight as possible on the ribs of Riddle to block off the air, so I gave Nigel a point for that too. I always love those sort of calls, like, oh, they're positioned this way so there's extra torque in the leg, or he's positioned himself like that to squeeze the air out of his opponent, so I really like that. Nice promising start from the commentary with them all being on one. Mauro was on fire calling this next sequence and easily gets himself up to 2 points. Riddle goes on offense overdrive, so he hits a penalty kick, he nips up, gives Cole a forearm smash, exploder suplex, a penalty kick, and then hits a Broton, shortly followed by a flash knee strike and a fisherman's buster for the near fall. And when that doesn't work, he hits an Everest style German suplex. I was just like, oh my god, give this man the NXT Championship. I am such a mark for Matt Riddle, and this match with Cole just made that even more so. I didn't necessarily want Cole to lose because I like the Undisputed Era, but I was like, man, if anyone was going to beat him, I'd really like it to be Matt Riddle because he seems so dangerous in this match. Cole goes for a big, high-risk move, but he manages to change momentum mid-air and hits a backstabber. Loved that bit. Nice little bit of in-ring smarts from Adam Cole, as well as the commentary really putting over how talented that is, like just really putting over the change of direction in mid-air. We get this really nice spot with Cole earning himself a little bit of heat by stamping on Riddle's bare feet, which I don't really see how that's a heel move. Riddle's not wearing shoes. I'd do that too. Maybe I'm a dick. Mauro earns himself 2 more points because he's just doing so well at this point with the calling of the moves. So we get this sequence that Adam Cole starts on. He gets a step up enziguri as a counter, which Mauro goes absolutely wild for. It's a release German suplex, and we get this little sequence that ends in an Ushi-Goroshi, which was really, really cool. Then, after a little bit, Riddle manages to counter. He gets a flash knee strike, goes for the floating bro. Cole gets the knees up and then hits a Panama Sunrise for the near fall and a holy shit chant. And even I was like, whoa, what? Because as soon as he hit the Panama Sunrise, I was like, that's it, it's over. He's won clean, like Adam Cole actually sort of tends to do. I know people are going to want to say that this wasn't a clean win at the end of this match, but goddamn, I really thought it was over in this moment, and the fact that it wasn't really put over Matt Riddle, and it really sold that like Adam Cole is going to have to dig deeper than he's ever dug before. Cole goes for another Panama Sunrise, but Riddle manages to reverse with a bro to sleep. He hits a powerbomb and then goes for the floating bro for the near fall. Then he goes up to the top rope, but Cole manages to get up and he crotches him on the top rope. And, sorry, my phone just decided to shout at me. He goes up to the top rope, Cole manages to crotch him, and Mauro screams that Riddle's got scrambled eggs, which was sort of vaguely funny, but also like, oh, Mauro, you silly man. Then, at the end of the match, we get this bit where Cole is sort of showing off. Riddle manages to counter. Cole goes for the last shot, but Riddle locks in the bro mission. He attempts the Fujiwara armbar a few times, but eventually Cole hits him with the cast, elbows him in the face, and then hits him with the last shot for the win. I just really, really loved this match. I thought it was a really, really strong way to start off the show. I thought that it made both men look really good. The fact that we didn't have to get an Undisputed Era involvement. I think that it's really funny that Cole is sort of turning out to be the strongest member of Undisputed Era. He's actually living up to the title of a champion, and I really like that. I thought this was a really, really solid way to start off, and if the rest of the show had have stayed at this level, it would have kicked the shit out of AEW. Unfortunately, it didn't really stay at this level, but we'll get to that. But I gave this a 6 out of 6 match, and in the end, Mauro comes out with 4, Nigel's got 1, and Beth has 1. We get a Velveteen Dream promo, and I usually really, really like Dream's mic work. I think that the crowd was so burnt out after the championship match that they just weren't really into it and they didn't respond, and it really fell flat. Dream comes out, he's like, do you feel it? Do you feel it? What about you, madam? Do you feel it? And then he's like, the feeling that you're all getting is the Velveteen experience dripping into every pore. He talks about the fact that Undisputed Era had to come out to help Roddy, but he's never complained about taking on more than one guy at once. He says in his little suggestive voice, which implies that he likes to have gangbangs, just a casual gangbang reference on NXT, so I mean, that made me laugh, but yeah, it just didn't really feel as special as a Velveteen Dream promo does. I think they could have maybe left it and given Io Shirai and Mia Yim another couple of minutes, because it really, really fell flat, and that's not usual for a Velveteen Dream promo. The crowd usually loves him, but they were all just really, really knackered by that championship match, I think. Next up, we get a non-title women's match, which I was really happy to see. If there's one thing that NXT has on AEW this week, it's the fact that they use the women a little bit more. I didn't think that this was the best match ever, but I did enjoy it at times. I just don't think the commentary was as into it as they were with the championship match, and thusly didn't call it as good. But let's get into it. In the early moments, Mia Yim starts working Io Shirai's legs, trying to neutralise that high-flying ability. Like that, in-ring smarts. She studied a tape, she knows what Io's renowned for, and she's trying to take that offense away. Shirai's like, fine, gonna work my legs, I'll do the same to you. Hits a dragon screw leg whip, which I actually managed to get right this time. And then she just goes along with the just nasty offense. She's got like a handful of hair, etc, etc. She hits a flapjack, and then Nigel's like, oh, look at this from Io Shirai. It's hard not to be cocky when when you're that good. And then she gets a near fall, and commentary talk about how cocky that near fall was. Yim actually manages to fire up a little bit and get some offense in. She gets an overhead belly to belly. She hits a jab, a kick, a lariat, shortly followed by a basement dropkick, and then delivers some, quote, merciless kicks. Some more nasty offense from Io Shirai. She hits a double chop to the throat. That's just nasty, nasty heel offense, and her heel character is really starting to shine through. She gets the 619, followed by, quote, a springboard to follow up. She's looking for a German suplex when Mia Yim counters with the code blue. Io Shirai rolls to the outside, so Yim hits a suicide dive. They're fighting on the outside, and that's when we get the horrible, horrible line from Mauro of, these two are going at it like a dentist and a carpenter. It's tooth and nail. And I was just like, oh God, Mauro, just stop. It feels like now that he's back on live TV, he's back to his old SmackDown Live self, and even though he started off really, really good, it's more or less a downward slope for Mauro from here. They fight on the top rope, and Io manages to hit a superplex, but commentary plays up that she lands awkwardly, and that's why she doesn't get the cover in time. They go back and forth a little bit more, but eventually Io hits the moonsault for the win. I actually thought this was like a 4+ match, maybe with a few more minutes, like taken from what that Velveteen Dream promo. If they hadn't have had that, a few more minutes could have just put the cherry on top for this. It was a 4+, it could have been a 5, but I like that there was non-title women's action. It keeps Mia Yim in the eyes of the fans, and also keeps Io Shirai's ball rolling, as well as just keeping on showing that she's a nasty, horrible person now with her offense and her attitude, and it all works really well. They really seem to be building her up as being the woman that could take that championship off Shayna. She's really the only person that I've experienced on NXT that I've been like, okay, if someone's going to take it, that's a really good choice. Candice would have been good this week, but I'm sort of glad that they didn't too. I'm not as bored of Shayna as some people seem to be. I like nice long title reigns, really dominant champions, because I just think that when someone eventually beats them, it'll make them look really good. And I think when Io Shirai beats Shayna, if she does, I think she's going to look absolutely amazing. So while there was no amazing calls in that match, when there's a match like that, where I know more or less everything that's gone on, I didn't miss any of the action, but there just wasn't any outstanding calls, I like to award a point at the end of the match to the play-by-play, so Mauro is now up to 5, Nigel and Beth still on 1. We get a shot of Hall and Nash in the crowd, and Mauro takes the opportunity to say things are too sweet, which just made me laugh, because it's like they're opposite to AEW at the minute, and they're going to take every chance they can to rub the too sweet thing in the face, probably. Then we get a Tegan Nox return video package. Really excited for this. Tegan Nox was in one of the actual very first wrestling show that I ever went to. It was a tiny little cheesy thing at a Pro Wrestling 4U event, and I really, really enjoyed it, and I've sort of just got a little bit of a soft spot for her. She talks about injuring her leg during the Mae Young Classic, the fact that it was the most intense pain of her life, the fact that she didn't know whether she was going to come back. It's the hardest thing she's physically and mentally had to do, but it lit a fire under her and she's ready to come back and kick some ass, and I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait. I really hope they let Dakota and Tegan actually team up and be a women's tag team. I'd like to see the women's tag division get utilised a little bit more in NXT, possibly with one of the NXT teams winning the belts, and Tegan and Dakota are a good choice for that. Next, it's Johnny Wrestling versus Shane Thorne. I don't know why, but this match didn't really connect with me too much. I don't know whether it's Shane Thorne or whether it's just because it was an exhibition match, and I don't know. There was just something about it that didn't really connect with me all that much. Anyway, they start off the match going backwards and forwards with pinning combinations. Gargano goes for the Gargano escape, but Thorne manages to get out of it. The commentary put over how ugly Thorne's offences, calling it meat pie ugly, which is something that they said last time, so it must just be a part of the way that they like to put him over. Gargano sends Thorne out of the ring, he hits a suicide dive, gets him back in the ring, hits a slingshot spear, but Thorne ends up countering, hits a double knees and a powerbomb for the near fall. We get a heavy strike exchange going on, which ends with Gargano getting the upper hand, and Mauro just screams, "Turning him inside out!" And I was like, okay. There was a lot during this match of just talking, milling about, and the commentary weren't really saying much. I literally, other than the things that I've already said, I've only got sort of the end bit, which is Johnny Gargano hitting the Poison Rana, a la his wife, and then and then he tunes up the band DIY style and he gets the win off that. Again, like I said, didn't really connect with me, don't know why. I only gave it a 3 out of 6 because it just wasn't worth doing, in my opinion. I would have liked to have seen something a little bit higher stake. Shane Thorne hasn't particularly been introduced much. There wasn't really much character shown or any story told, so it just sort of fell flat to me, and I think I was just expecting maybe a little bit too much or a little bit more. Either way, I don't know whether I was expecting too much or whether this just didn't live up. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. Women's title action, Candice Loray trying to capture Shayna Bazler's NXT Women's Championship. This one I thought was going to absolutely leave Nyla Rose and Riho in the dust, but in hindsight I think I actually probably enjoyed Nyla Rose that little bit more. This was a fairly decent match though. In the early moments, the play up this Tenacious C thing that they seem to be doing recently. Gotta say, I'm not a massive fan of that. As a fan of Tenacious D, I don't know, it just feels a little bit forced, so I don't know about that. But anyway, match kicks off. Candice hits a step-up enziguri. That sends Bazler out to the apron. Candice hits a dropkick and then a diving crossbody, and that leads into the commercial break. When they come back from commercial, Shayna Bazler has the upper hand. She's working Candice's arm for quite a little bit, but it was sort of getting frustrating because they were putting over how much it had hurt. Like, oh no, she's got to be really damaging that arm there, but just really not saying what Bazler was doing until Beth pointed out that she'd sent her into the steel steps. So I gave Beth a point because she was the only one that offered a little bit of detail, so Beth is now on 2. That's when Candice tries for the ropes and she eventually, quote, plants Shayna Bazler and hits a trio of dives. Mauro then lets himself down and gets a point taken away from him, going back down to 4, because he's like, what a move from Bazler, both women down, but who will be down for the count? And I was like, great, what move was that? Considering that you're saying, what move was it, Mauro? So you get a point taken away from you, you dick. Candice has Move Thief enabled and she locks in the Kirifuda clutch. I always like it when someone does something like this because it's just cool when someone uses their own offense against them, because unless you are sort of obsessed with that sort of thing, why would you be training to block your own move? For the most part, I think people will just focus on other people's offense, or if you're someone like Shayna Bazler, you'll just think that they're not going to get anything in on you. So the fact that she uses her own move against her, just really thought that was cool. Then we got a big move that I thought was like quite cool, where we got a diving, swinging neckbreaker from Candice. I was like, oh, here we go, we're picking up that momentum. She's finally going to pick it up. Shayna's finally going to lose. And then Candice goes for some sort of big move, and Bazler locks in the Kirifuda clutch. And Nigel's trying to talk about positioning, and, oh, look at the way Shayna Bazler's positioned herself. This is going to... But Mauro is just like shouting over her, just like... I can't even remember what he was saying now because it was useless, but he's just shouting, you know, he may as well just be going Mamma Mia over the top of Nigel, and it just makes me sad because Nigel's the best. But eventually Candice taps anyway, and Shayna retains the championship, and it was just like, wow, I can't believe that that's where they've chosen to go with this. I really, really couldn't believe it, especially considering in hindsight what we know from SmackDown on Fox with some of more sport orientated directions they went. I'm just really surprised that they didn't end up calling up Shayna to SmackDown, and surprised that she retained. And where they go next is anyone's guess, other than maybe Io Shirai, which, like I said earlier, might be a good call. Next up, it was Pete Dunne taking on Danny Burch. I really like that they're focusing and featuring the NXT UK division. I really like that Pete Dunne's getting a bit of a push, but this match really, really didn't catch my attention. It was early moments. The match was sort of dedicated to joint manipulation. They were just putting over how brutal Pete Dunne's offense is and how good he is at that joint manipulation type stuff. Everything leading up to the commercial break was just basically filler. And then when they come back from the commercial break, we get Pete Dunne doing a sit-out powerbomb. He's attacking Burch for a little bit until Burch fires back with a headbutt, a pop-up powerbomb, and a DDT for the near fall. And then really the only other note that I've got is the finish, which is Pete Dunne hitting the bitter end. I really don't have a problem with them using the UK talent on NXT. I really want them to, in fact, because it's sort of sad that NXT UK is just sort of tucked away on the network. It doesn't feel as special as NXT did when that was just like a network exclusive thing. So hopefully they can get a lot more featured, but this match really didn't connect with me. Although I did notice that there was a bit of a change in Nigel. Like, yes, this is my speciality, and I did notice that Mauro let him sort of take the lead a little bit more, but yeah, there was just something about it that didn't connect. Post-match, the lights go out. Mauro's like, what's going on? Why did the lights go out? And then all of a sudden it's, the Archer of Infamy has struck. And I was like, okay, so Damian Priest is attacking. And I think that he attacked Pete Dunne, but that's a cool new step for Pete. It'll probably make Damian Priest look pretty good, but I'm sure Pete Dunne will come out of that one with the win, just to give him a little bit more momentum. He seems to be something of a key player. They really want to position him as a key player, and I'm really happy about that, actually. And then it's the main event, which was the worst part of the show for me, to be honest. There's a number of factors that go into this. The first one is that it's Undisputed Era versus the Scrappy Usos, the Street Profits. That's really what I think they are. They're just the Scrappy level version of the Usos. But yeah, I wasn't really excited that it was them. I sort of was like, okay, this is just going to be an Undisputed Era win anyway, so it's not like I can invest in just the match because I don't like Street Profits. But even if I had tried to invest, the commentary didn't do a great job, as you'll see in a minute when I get to the breakdown. But first, I'm going to just talk about the Street Profits entrance. That was cheesy, wasn't it? It's Wale just doing like the most cheesy hip-hop stuff that, like, he legit going, when I say street, you say profits. Street profits. It was so bad. And then just going, we want the smoke, just over and over and over again. I was just like, oh my god, please just end my misery now and just let Undisputed Era come out so I can actually have the cool theme of Undisputed Era rather than this cheesy shit. So the match finally kicks off. We get more or less nothing heading into the commercial break, or at least commentary doesn't make it sound like there was anything worth noting. Then when we come back from the commercial, we get this call that's like, oh, these two are just going at it. A nice level change there from Mauro, and I was just like, what does that even mean? And then we get a senton from Bobby Fish for the near fall, which just had no drama to it whatsoever. I knew, you knew, the crowd knew that the match wasn't ending there, and it just sort of fell flat. O'Reilly and Ford are fighting a little bit. O'Reilly manages to get the full mount on Ford. I do like that they play up on his ground game and striking ability and all that lot. Kyle O'Reilly does seem like a genuinely dangerous member of the Undisputed Era. Beth picks herself up another point by pointing out the fact that O'Reilly has himself positioned between Ford and Dawkins so he can't go and get the tag, and I just like that sort of stuff. It was a small detail that still actually added to the match and helped me visualise what was going on, so well done there, Beth. Ford's fighting back against both men. He knocks Fish out of the ring, hits a Uranagi on Kyle O'Reilly, and tries to go for the tag from Dawkins, but Bobby Fish takes Dawkins out. Then we get Mauro's next little mess up, and he gets another point taken away from him because you get double team from Undisputed Era, incredible tandem offense. I was just like, great, thanks, Mauro. So you're down to 3 points now. Such a good start, Mauro. Such a good start. And then it just peters off a cliff and you end up slipping further and further down. I'd really thought that he was going to be like higher on the league table than this, but it's just turned out that he was not doing his job very good on on NXT this week. Then we get Ford getting the hot tag, and Dawkins, quote, comes in on a roll, but no one bothers to tell us what he's actually doing. Then he hits a pair of splashes in the corner to each member of Undisputed Era. Dawkins hits a spear, he gets a near fall from a leg capture suplex, and then Beth picks herself up a 4th point because we get this spot, something happens, the other two just scream, oh, he's hurt, and then Beth is like, oh, an awkward DDT there to Dawkins, and I was like, well done, Beth, you're officially doing better than Mauro is. Oh, malfunction at the junction, screams Mauro. A heap of humanity, says Beth, and then Mauro chimes in again with the huge Angelo Dawkins showing his stuff, and I'm like, that's it, Mauro, that's the final straw, you're going down another point, and he's now on 2. Then we get a huge holy shit chant from some sort of move by the Street Profits. Roderick Strong comes out, and that distraction allows for the Street Profits to hit high-low, and they pick up the win, retaining the NXT Tag Team Championships, and leaving me feeling a little bit better. Like, I was looking forward to this match, other than the fact that the Street Profits were in it, but past that, I'm invested in the Undisputed Era storyline, and I was just like, okay, this should be really great. I'm probably going to enjoy it more than I'll enjoy an AEW tag match, because I get really lost in those, and then it just all fell apart. I don't know what happened with the commentary. I don't know whether they were tired or whether they just weren't. I was going to say whether they weren't bothered, but it's not going to be that, because it was big stakes, but they just didn't do the job. And Mauro Ranallo in particular, he started off so well at the beginning of this and then just petered off a cliff, and by the end, the fact that he only ended up on 2 points was just like so disappointing. I thought for sure he was going to be in the top 3 along with Excalibur and Nigel, and things just didn't work out how they did. Well, I'll get to the points in a second. Let's talk about what happened afterwards. And I didn't actually mention Finn Balor's return earlier on, which I should mention now. So we got 2 huge returns, both of which got spoilt for me. One of which was my fault and one of which was not. But it doesn't really matter either way. We got a Finn Balor return, and that was sort of exciting, seeing him come back. It'll be pretty cool seeing Finn interacting with the Undisputed Era. That brings us one step closer to that OC Undisputed Era rivalry that we all want, and him just being like, yeah, I'm NXT now. I was like, yeah, cool. But the really big one, the one that I was really happy about, was Tommaso Ciampa making his return to the Full Sail Arena. I just think that this is going to be really, really good. Is he going to be face? Is he going to be heel? What are they going to... Is he going to get back with Johnny, especially with the DIY reference at the end of the Thorne Gargano match and tuning up the band DIY style? Are we going to see a DIY reunion? Is he going to be face now? Is he still going to hate Johnny? There's so much to find out in these next few weeks, and I'm just really, really happy that he's actually back. I thought he was going to be out for so much longer than this, and even though it feels like a long time that he's been out, it also feels like he's come back really, really quickly, and I just hope that they still find a good place for him, because things are really, really stacked in NXT right now. I really like Adam Cole as the champion. He seems so legit, and there's just something like, cheeky and charismatic about him, and you sort of get behind him even though you don't want to. A huge mark for Matt Riddle at the minute. You all know how much of a fan I am of the Velveteen Dream. Excuse me. But, we've got so many people, Pete Dunne potentially being on the rise. There's so many potential challenges for Cole right now. I just hope that Gargano doesn't get left in the mix, and maybe we could get some sort of tournament or some sort of like fatal 5-way or something, because Finn versus Ciampa versus Matt Riddle, I mean, that match would be great. Add Velveteen Dream in there for a fatal 4-way, that'd be great. So there's so many different directions they can go now, and I'm really, really looking forward to seeing the ongoing storylines. The biggest shocker for me was Shayna retaining, because I just couldn't. I really, really thought that Candice was going to lose. It was going to pick up the win here, and Shayna was going to lose, but it didn't work out that way. I actually think that watching AEW before this sort of hindered it a little bit, because I was like expecting it to do so much better than AEW, and didn't think that it did better in all of the areas. I mean, the Matt Riddle Adam Cole match was probably better than anything on the AEW show, in my opinion, and was called better than anything on the AEW show. But there was just a few things that, while I was watching it, really didn't connect with me, like the Velveteen Dream match. The Io Shirai and Mia Yim match, whilst I was watching it, didn't seem that great, even though when I was sort of reading through the notes, I was like, wow, that seemed better than I actually remember. But the Pete Dunne and Danny Burch match I found really, really boring, and then as you saw, the Undisputed Era match was just like, oh, come on. So yeah, those are my thoughts on NXT this week. So a roundup of the points before we finish up the show. Who would have thought that the commentator of the night would have been Beth Phoenix? I was going to say Beth effing Phoenix then, but I better not. I don't know why. It's not like I'm monetized. Beth fucking Phoenix. Yeah, getting 4 points. I was actually really surprised, and I was really proud of her. And she's really coming into her own as a commentator. I like that she focuses on facial expressions. I like that she has the experience of being a wrestler, just like Nigel does. And hopefully she can keep doing what she was doing there, where when the other two were... when they were maybe not doing as good of a job, she was picking up the slack, just giving a little detail here and there that really helps. And a lot of the time she doesn't actually say useless or meaningless stuff. She might not say a lot, but when she does say something, she usually has a point, and it's usually a little detail that really helps. Mauro gets 2, and honestly, it really disappointed me that he did that, because when I watched the Adam Cole match at the end, I was like, yes, Mauro is going to give Excalibur a run for his money here, because he scored sort of a similar amount of points in the opening match as Excalibur did, and I was like, this is a good sign. And then he just didn't really accumulate many over the rest of the show, and then dropped quite a few in the second hour. So it's just like, I'm really surprised by how that's all gone down. And then Nigel comes in at 1 point. And at least you guys know that I'm not going to just fudge these results, that I'm not going to be biased about it, because yes, I am a huge Nigel Mcguinness fan, and yes, I am biased towards him, but I'm not going to give him credit that he's not earning, because I don't think he needs that. It's been sort of disappointing seeing him team up with Mauro over these last few weeks, because it does make me want the NXT UK version of Nigel, and I'm sort of slowly starting to realise that they are two different, not characters, but they're two different beings. They serve two different purposes, and it's just a lot of the time he seems to clash with Mauro, and Mauro just shouts over him. And the most offensive thing with that was the Shayna Bazler thing, where he was about to talk about all the positioning of Shayna's move, and then Mauro's just like shouting over him with his useless platitudes and pop culture references. But yeah, really, really shocking turn of events that that Nigel comes out as the worst commentator of the night. I don't really want to hand it out like that, but it basically was. It was the most useless and not the most useful, unfortunately. God, I hope he doesn't watch this. I know that he likes my tweets whenever I tweet them at him, and I don't know whether that's him doing it or whether it's like just someone that runs his Twitter for him, but I hope that he doesn't happen to just click on this one and be like, oh, I wonder what he thought of me, because this is not an average week of what I thought for Nigel Mcguinness, but hopefully over the course of the month he can pick up some more points and get higher up the table. If you've got any thoughts on this episode of NXT, or indeed this episode of the WITD podcast, you can drop them in the comments section. You know where that is. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Mason_WITD, and join the Discord server if you want to be a member of the WITD community. My phone deciding to chip in there and ruin my outro. If you've liked this, subscribe and hit the notify bell, and you'll always be informed when a WITD episode goes up. Right guys, I'm off, and you should have a good one.